Welcome to a video tutorial from Valentia Photography Workshops and me, Stephen Power. This one is about the new color grading tool in version 10 of Adobe Lightroom Classic 2020. Hi, this is a quick look at the new color grading tool, which is new to version 10 of Lightroom as of October 2020, and also you'll find it in the latest Adobe Camera Raw version 13. I'm going to look at it in the develop module of Lightroom, and you'll find it just below the HSL color panel and just above the detail panel. And you're saying to yourself, well, isn't that where the split toning panel should be? And yes, it is. This is a replacement for that. And it's also, if for those of you who are used to using Adobe Premiere Pro video editing software, you'll see that it looks very similar to the color grading tool in that software. This panel defaults to the three-way view, and we've got a color wheel for midtones, shadows and highlights, and underneath each wheel we've got a slider for the luminance, which is basically the amount of brightness in that hue that you select. The way it works is to move the little colored dot around the color wheel, and when you have a color that you want to apply to a particular area of the image, in this case the midtones, you then select the circle from the middle of the wheel and drag it down towards the dot. The closer you get to the small dot, the more color you apply. So this is actually affecting the saturation of the color. So we've selected the hue, the color of the color, as I like to call it, and now we're selecting the strength of that color, the saturation of the color. Then if we come to the slider underneath, we can change the luminance of the tone. So basically we can alter how bright or how dark the tone is in relation to the rest of the image. A couple of shortcuts that are very useful to know about. As we're moving the circle, a straight line appears, but it's possible to drift away from it. So a tip is to hold the shift key down, and this will fix the slider, the little circle, onto the line. If we use the control or the command key, it applies an inner circle on the color wheel at the point where we've set the saturation. So then we can, holding that down, we can then move the ball around the wheel to choose another color, but at the same saturation as the previous selection. I prefer, though, to use these selective buttons. There's one for shadows, midtones, highlights, and then a global adjustment, which will change the whole of the image. If we select the midtone, then we get a larger color wheel, and there's a little left-facing arrow here. If we click that down, then we get sliders for hue, saturation and luminance. Double clicking them, as with most sliders in Lightroom, will zero it out, and then we can move the slider rather than moving the little ball around, if we choose to do so, to affect the hue, and a slider for the saturation, and then a slider for the luminance. I find this gives more control over what I'm doing rather than chasing a little ball around the color wheel. Underneath that, then we have a blending slider and a balance slider. So the blending slider will allow the colors to blend into each other more gradually, and the balance slider goes from the shadow detail on the left to the highlight detail on the right, with the midtones in the middle, so we can, skew, if you like, the tones towards the highlight area or towards the shadows, or leave them in the middle. Then finally, the global adjustment tool does exactly what it says on the tin. I'll zero out the hue, and we're affecting the whole of the image with the particular color that we've chosen. Might be useful actually to make sure that you've got all of the wheels set to 0 before you use it. So we're not really split toning here, we're just adding some overall color grading, some color tint if you like, to the overall image. So that's a quick look at the new color grading tool, Adobe Lightroom Classic, as of October 2020. I hope you found it helpful. Experiment with it. Let me know in the comments below how you're finding it, what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And please subscribe to Valentia Photography Workshops for more tutorials.